We live? Hey. Hey, everyone. Happy Ignite Day 1. Thank you for hanging around with the late crowd. Thank you for staying here. We're really excited to have you. So Shireesh, Mike, and I are going to talk to you about why you should choose Azure Database for every one of your scenarios, every one of your partner scenarios. So thank you so much. My name is 𝗬𝗲𝗀𝗻𝗂. I recognize a couple of you in here, but if I haven't met you before, I'm responsible for database product marketing at Microsoft. Before that, coming up on 30 years, split between a buyer on the customer side, where I was designing solutions in corporate IT, and in the customer side. So I come from an SI myself, where very much like I assume many of you, trying to help customers succeed. So passionate about Azure databases, and why don't we just jump into it? So why should you consider Azure databases? Because your customers have big ambitions. They've got AI innovation they want to do, and when you think about it, that's top of mind for everyone. They've got AI, big budgets, big expectations. They want to increase operational efficiency. They want faster time to market. They want better analytics, more insight, more real-time information, and at the same time, they want to do it with business continuity and resiliency. So because of that, data requirements are changing. You need data real time, and I'm not talking about 10 years ago real time where it was okay to be 5 to 10 minutes late. This is real time, and you need all the data. High volumes. If you're going to be doing training, AI depends on training on all your data, on all your different types of data at really high volume. And to train your models effectively, you need databases and systems that support vector search, complex search for your models, and you need transactional data, you need analytical data, and at the same time, you need privacy and compliance. So what does this mean for your databases? It's a shift. We're seeing our databases need real-time, always-on performance at scale. They need simplified data management, improvement on management so that your DBAs and administrators can focus more on the important things rather than just on managing and monitoring your databases. You need the agility to respond to not only the tech increases and changes in this current AI space. Technology changes are happening very rapidly, but also your own business changes. If you think about the first time you used a PaaS service and moved a slider, that was mind-jarring for me the first time I did that, I'll be honest with you. And I wished I had them 15 years ago when you had to buy a whole performance server and set it up exactly like prod for the couple weeks you use it a year. Or you had to scale yourself in retail for the 2 weeks that you're at your peak. Those things we've just taken for granted, but there's different things changing now, and you still need a system that can be agile with you. And of course, they need to be improved security and compliance. Azure databases are your answer. Azure database come with a comprehensive portfolio, SQL, NoSQL, Postgres, MySQL, providing a foundation for your mission-critical apps for businesses of any size in any market. They're optimized for AI, they offer integrated simplicity, and they're limitless and secure. So what does it mean to be optimized for AI? It means you've got things like built-in vector search. You've got hybrid and complex semantic search capabilities. It means you've got deep integration with AI solutions like Microsoft Foundry, like AI Search, like Azure OpenAI. It also means you've got innovative solutions yourself, leveraging things like disk ANN. So approximate nearest neighbor, Microsoft's innovative solution that helps you build scalable, cost-effective solutions within your database. Nobody else has it, and it's fantastic. So you can deliver AI solutions at scale with built-in AI capabilities. They also offer integrated simplicity. So key integrations, when you think about the way your developers work, the way your analysts work, they want to work where they work. So integrated into your entire ecosystem. So integrated with your favorite tools like VS Code, integrated in a way that you can get AI development support through GitHub Copilot. You've also got improved monitoring, maintenance using GitHub, using Copilot for Azure. So again, spend less time doing what you have to do and more time doing what you want to do or what helps improve your company and differentiates you. And you've got integrations with things like zero ETL to Fabric. So that mirroring you get with Fabric puts you in a position where no ETL, you're getting your data near real time into your analytics system for your unified analytics, which if I remember back a couple years ago, that was arguably the biggest thing we did on a regular basis as a partner. So huge benefit to your customers. So strategically, we've integrated such that your customers can build their ambitious applications on data-driven solutions. And they need to be limitless and secure. So Azure databases give you proven performance, SLA-backed availability, including 5 nines with Cosmos Database and Azure Managed Redis. You've got threat detection, alerting, and remediation, and you can deploy it on-prem, in IaaS, in hybrid, in PaaS, and now this week in SaaS with Fabric databases, or in multi-cloud with Azure Document DB. So you can confidently run your workloads any scale, anywhere, and everywhere you want. So that's why leaders innovate with Azure databases. From Fortune 500 to digital natives and startups, top companies rely on Azure databases. So let's look at a couple examples. So one of my favorite examples, it was a more fun example in Chicago, where they need this more than anyone else. But the NFL Scouting Combine, annual 1 week-long thing where coaches, scouts, GMs, they go and watch 300 of the top athletes from college. They're doing mental and physical exercises for a week. Think about how much information that is. This is really big business. I know it's just a sport, but it's huge business, and they need information quickly. They were struggling to get the information while at the Combine to make decisions appropriately. So what they ended up doing was partnering with Microsoft and building an AI assistant backed by Cosmos Database for performance and scale and throughput, along with some AI support built in. And now they've got instantaneous player insights. Their data now comes in seconds instead of hours, and they get to communicate in natural language search. So they get to use common football vernacular instead of having to do research or sending an analyst to go look at something. It's such an important business where minor changes make the difference on a career or on an entire city at times when you think about how important it is to some people. That's great that they've been able to improve with their Azure environment. Another great example, BMW Group. So BMW Group historically had been using manual on-premises for all of their development car information. So they needed a change. They came to Azure. What they did was they put an IoT device in every one of their development cars. They transmitted the data over cellular to Azure. They built reporting and effective analysis on top of it. So vehicle data more than doubled because they could cover so much more based on the way they captured it. It was 10 times faster availability. They went from days to hours, sometimes minutes, and they got a better solution from edge to cloud. So this was all leveraging Postgres behind the covers for storing Copilot information, conversation, feedback vectors, et cetera. So Azure Database for Postgres, storing all their information they need in support of their development process. And finally, Medigold Health. So Medigold Health was struggling with increased demand while at the same time a limited supply. So their clinicians themselves were limited. And so they were struggling to reduce administrative burden on clinicians, give them more time to focus on patients, and also improve work-life balance. You think about when you're overworked, you know there's too much demand and not enough supply, it burns you out. So what they ended up doing was turning to Azure. They built an Azure App Service. They migrated all their work to Azure App Service, leveraged OpenAI for automated report generation, leveraged Cosmos Database for logging, and they leveraged Azure SQL Database for storing and serving those AI-generated responses. 58% rise in retention and improved health and well-being, greater job satisfaction out of the clinicians. So super exciting and something we can all be thankful for. And with that, to go deeper on databases themselves, Shireesh Thota, CVP Azure Databases and Fabric App Development. Thank you. Thank you, Shireesh.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Jesse. I'm going to go a little deeper into the innovations that we're bringing in with Azure Databases as a product. So, we've seen how, Jesse has talked about the ambition that you all have and your customers have, of course. So every data project that you could think about starts with a few different requirements. Sometimes they have different components that they need to go tackle with. But the innovations, the improvements that we are doing in Azure Databases go to the heart of all the core essential requirements that our customers have. No matter where they are and what they are doing, what line of businesses they are in, the customers always tell us one thing. They need a strong data foundation. It's not a surprise, right? Given that no matter where you're moving from a classical ML to statistical ML to Gen AI to agentic AI, the one thing that doesn't change and is always needed, and perhaps much more than ever, is that data foundation. So we're going to look at 4 key scenarios today, and that basically go to the heart of these things. So the scenarios illustrate that the investments that we are making in the data foundation effectively reinforce the importance of data foundation so that you can really go meet the needs of your ambitions, your customers' ambitions, and whatnot. So what are those 4 scenarios? To begin with, we're going to look into how SQL is modernizing and migrating. You can migrate your estates wherever they are into Azure, even as we basically usher them into the era of AI. Secondly, we're going to look into how PostgreSQL is quickly becoming the choice of the database, choicest databases in terms of building high-value applications, making its way into enterprise applications, and much more. Then we'll turn into NoSQL. We'll see how the flexibility that NoSQL offers, the freedom of choice that they have, it's unmatched when you're trying to get that kind of scale and flexibility without sacrificing reliability. Last but not least, we're definitely going to look into how teams are deploying AI applications and how they need performance and scale across the board, across all the services that we're building. So let's dive in. Let's begin by looking into SQL. Now, SQL, this is one of the databases that's been there for a while, and many of the customers have taken a massive bet on SQL. It's not just this year, last few years. It's been for decades. There's a reason for it. This is a database that's built on robust security foundations, amazing performance benchmarks. We've been a leader in the performance benchmarks, and we don't have any intent to lose that. We continue to, of course, bring in a lot of developer experiences, and so making it easier for them to go build the applications. One thing that comes up a lot more often in our conversations with SQL customers is that they're a little worried. We've already invested quite a bit. Can you please make sure that you honor all those investments and yet give us a pathway to this new world of AI? So we've heard them loud and clear, so we thought about it really hard and deep and basically incorporated all that feedback into the next release, that is SQL Server 2025. So today we are basically super thrilled to announce the next generation version of SQL Server. We've always had major releases of SQL Server, but this one is special. We've always thought about how do we add more performance, more security, and much more, but we are entering into the era of AI, so any database which is not AI native is not going to really do well. So that's exactly what we've done here. We've brought in all the learnings that we have, talking to many customers in terms of what they need for their AI applications, put it all into SQL Server, so which essentially means that all the frameworks, languages, tools, the SSMS, T-SQL, whatever, you could use them to make sure that your developers can build amazing Gen AI applications, be productive. You can move the data between Azure and Fabric, and much more. You'll see all these capabilities come to life in a few ways. To begin with, you will have amazing semantic search. In addition to all the great things that SQL has. SQL has some of the best B trees to do indexing, full text, spatial, and all those cool things. You could combine that with vector search on the data that's already stored into SQL. So that opens up a whole new world of Gen AI agentic applications. Your developers will have much more because we brought in JSON indexing. We advanced it quite a bit. Regex. If you've heard about event-driven architectures, you could do that a lot more efficiently because we have a feature called change event streaming. That makes it much more compelling to use SQL Server. And then, I don't know if you've heard about Fabric, but I'm sure you all. There is something called one-lake mirroring that makes it easier to move operational data into one lake and thereby amplifying a lot of analytical scenarios. So you can gather insights on the data at the pace at which your operational data moves. And it is native. It's built into SQL Server as though it's first class. So as soon as you install SQL Server, you could start mirroring the data, very easy, install Arc, and it's good to go. And we've also innovated deep under the hood as well. We brought in Entra capabilities to SQL Server. Now, just a moment, think about it, right? The Entra is one of these amazing identity solutions that Azure provides, but SQL Server could be deployed anywhere. With something called Arc Agent, you could connect to Azure, and you basically benefit from all the Entra capabilities that are out there. So that's really a game changer. We also brought in all the innovations that you have in the cloud. We keep innovating in the cloud. We packaged it all the way back to on-premises. So features such as optimized locking. This is, again, for those who care about awesome throughput. Optimized locking is there, query optimizations, failover resiliency. We've also made it very easy to have testing on the developer experiences. We've made a lot more improvements in our standard dev edition. Some of your customers might care about it. The core limits on express editions have gone up. One of the coolest things about this release is that we're not making any price change. So this is it's a lot more value for the same price as whatever the old version of SQL Server is. And so yeah, you get a lot of these benefits from SQL Server. So very thrilled about it. It is one of the rare few databases that basically can say that we can go from ground to cloud in Azure SQL, as well as in the SaaS form in the Fabric. So ground to cloud to Fabric, you can develop once, deploy anywhere. SQL Server is ubiquitous. It's there in all clouds. It's there any on-premises, et cetera. But the right place to run it is definitely in Azure. Well, speaking of SaaS databases, so SQL, as I said, it runs everywhere, including in Fabric. So it's interesting to see the journey of Fabric. When we envisioned Fabric, when we started out in this journey, we started thinking about, hey, how do we go ahead and build a unified analytics platform? There's too much of analytics going on, data engineering, data science, Power BI, real-time intelligence, and much more. And there's just way too much of fragmentation. The data moves across different places. So how do we really bring together, build a unified analytics platform? We built that. It's a smashing success. You all care about it, love it. We're very thrilled. We're continuing to mature this. What we have done here by bringing in databases into Fabric is a complete another leapfrog moment where we are trying to make it a unified data platform. You want to have the operational data along with analytics platform so that you can gather insights really quickly. You don't have to really have these two worlds where transactions are in one place, analytics in the other place. That's exactly what we're pursuing here. And while we're doing it, we took the opportunity to simplify a lot of the experiences. So when we say something is SaaS, the ultimate goal is to make sure that the time to value is significantly shortened. And that's what we did by creating a simple interface. So you could go ahead and create a database, not like how you used to do in terms of figuring out, hey, what should be the collation approach should be, what should be the backup restore policy. All those things are available, by the way. We're not removing it, but the interface is super simple so that you can get started as though you're basically creating a Word document in a SharePoint site. Right? It's as simple as that. Autonomous, again, most of your developers are thinking about how do they really tune things. On the top of the stack. They don't want to really understand how do I tweak my pieces here left and right. It's not that easy for developers, for everybody. You need to have a deep DBA to understand how to tune the databases. So we are aspiring to make things autonomous. And finally, AI is, of course, built into Fabric. There's a lot more stuff in terms of AI skilling, deeper integration with Microsoft Foundry. All that stuff is native to Fabric, and thereby we inherited by bringing in databases into Fabric. So we're thrilled to announce general availability for SQL. We also have general availability for Cosmos DB. We're definitely bringing in Postgres as well in a bit. Speaking of Postgres, I want to give a shout out to DBTune. So Luigi is here, and this is one of those cases I was talking about autonomous experiences. It's not easy to tune things. Again, you really need deep database expertise to understand what kind of indexes do I want, what kind of parameters should I optimize, et cetera. That's exactly what DBTune does, and this is an example of how partnership works in terms of, hey, you don't need to just come to Azure thinking that what you see is what you get. We work with the ecosystem. We want to make sure that the whole is it's the sum of its parts is definitely bigger than the whole, right? So that's kind of really what we are doing here. And then let's move a little bit further from SQL. Naturally, many of the mission-critical applications will continue to run on SQL for a long time. We're very thrilled about it. We're continuing to push it. But when we talk to customers, they also express that they need a choice. They want to make sure that they have the freedom to pick the right database for the right workload. And that's where PostgreSQL comes into picture. When we talk to them, they tell us that they love PostgreSQL because it's open. It's reliable. They love the developer experience that they get with PostgreSQL. And yet, there is a little bit of a challenge here because PostgreSQL is designed in the community to be a standalone, a traditional kind of a relational database which can scale up. Doesn't scale out that well. When you're basically really growing your enterprise workloads, the ability to manage and scale becomes a little bit of a problem. So customers end up spending a lot of their energy in eking out the last bit of performance gains, trying to make sure it's resilient and all that stuff. And that's kind of really a problem, but we also see that the Postgres leadership in the market is obviously taken off. A lot of people love a lot of great things about PostgreSQL. So we saw a gap there. And that's the reason why Microsoft has taken a major commitment in terms of becoming a great citizen in the PostgreSQL community. And not just being a citizen, but we want to make sure that we really participate in shaping how this product comes out to be. So we have the most number of committers in PostgreSQL amongst all the hyperscalers. Because of that, we obviously commit a lot to the upstream source code. We, in fact, made the most amount of commits. Not many people know about this. For the last 3 consecutive releases, 16, 17, 18 put together, we have made the most number of commits to the source code amongst all the hyperscalers. Thanks to all these awesome things, we can really bring all the major versions to PostgreSQL on the same day that the community announces. PG18, the day it came out, it's there in Azure. Now, that's just one example. There's a lot more goodness to it, but this is just to show you how deeply we're entrenched into PostgreSQL community. We really, really love PostgreSQL. And we do have an amazing offering in the market already to show how much we love and care about PostgreSQL. We've been investing in this. It's called Flex, PostgreSQL Flex, and it is 100% open source. All the major versions are supported. It's got comprehensive enterprise guarantees and much more. But one thing, again, as I said, it's not necessarily cloud native, and there are a lot of customers who ask for, I want to scale a lot more. I want to have a significant amount of read throughput, more than what a single sort of a traditional architecture of a PostgreSQL, like a replica per VM kind of a system offers. And hence, we're very thrilled to announce Horizon DB. And this is again, one of the most exciting pieces for us. We are not only committed to PostgreSQL, we are making a bold move here in terms of offering cloud native, something that is designed for performance and simplicity at a massive scale. How do we do it? Simply put, we basically decouple storage and compute. When you decouple storage and compute in a database, especially in a relational database, you now can do some interesting things. You can scale them independently, and you can scale them massively. Because if they're coupled, you basically grow based on the maximum needs of each other. And sometimes you may have more compute needs, but not as much storage needs. Or you may have a lot of storage need, but not as much of throughput needs. But you'd have to scale both of them together in a traditional architecture. It doesn't bode well. By decoupling them, we can scale them independently, scale them massively. In fact, we can get up to 128 terabytes, 3,000 plus cores. That's a lot of throughput. Now, you also have 15 read replicas, which means that your reads and writes can be separated. You could really bring in massive cloud-native, internet-scale kind of applications onto PostgreSQL. Given the architecture, we have something called shared log that goes across different replicas. Thanks to all of that, our commit latencies, our throughput guarantees, our speeds, et cetera, are incredible. Now we're just getting started. There's a lot more that we're going to do here in this space. Definitely stay tuned. But this is, I hope I have convinced you that we are indeed more than super serious about PostgreSQL. All right, so the last chapter. Now, PostgreSQL is certainly having a great momentum here, but I want to turn my attention to NoSQL. Developers who care about flexibility, be it sort of like dynamic schemas or multi-tenant SaaS applications or real-time personalization, the freedom that NoSQL gives is unmatched. You really don't get this kind of an offering in all the databases. While I'm not a proponent of having one database per every specific scenario, I do believe that you do want to have some flexibility and trade-off between relational world and non-relational world. Between the relational and non-relational SQL, NoSQL, you cover 95, 98, 99% of the scenarios. There'll still be a need for some very niche kind of a database, but we got it covered. Non-relational is a very important part, especially because of the trade-off that you need to have in terms of the scale, RPO, RTO versus this. But one of the things that we see often is that developers really are looking for AI-driven experiences that go at a massive scale. They want assurances along with the freedom to innovate that their applications can remain up, reliable, can scale, make sure that they can sometimes be rooted in the open source community. But one of the gaps in the open source community in the NoSQL world is that we don't have an ANSI-SQL kind of a version. A true open source documents API didn't exist until now. Right? We basically, a few months ago, Microsoft has committed to open source project called DocumentDB. We've donated it to Linux Foundation. This is a project that is complete documents API, and it is basically built on Postgres. So you'd have all the goodness of PostgreSQL surfaced as though it is basically a NoSQL API. Great news, it has Mongo API compatibility, which means that most of the community who are used to Mongo API can benefit from this. So that was the idea as to why we wanted to do it. Again, if you go a few years back, people wouldn't believe the amount of commitment we have for open source, but I have shown you that we are basically committing deeply to Postgres as well as DocumentDB here. And DocumentDB is not just about really as a wrapper of PostgreSQL. We're innovating much more into that. Thanks to the way that we are offering, you could do multi-cloud, HANDR. Azure, again, is the best place to run this thing. But in case if you want to have another cloud as your another replica, go for it. You can have one replica in AWS, one in GCP, one in multiple in Azure. Why have one in Azure? And it's fine. You could basically fail over if you want. It works really seamlessly because it's all the same code. This goes to show how just like Postgres, DocumentDB is going to be ubiquitous. It's going to be open, and it's really, again, donated to Linux Foundation, so the governance is controlled not by Microsoft. We are, again, intending to be a really good partner and citizen in this community. Amazing differentiations. It's cheaper. It's much faster, better, and cheaper than Atlas. In fact, it's up to 40% cheaper. And if you are an RU customer, if there's a customer who is basically using our Mongo API RU code base, they can migrate to DocumentDB seamlessly without any challenges. In fact, it's cost-effective, too. So that was about DocumentDB. And then, yeah, on the NoSQL front, there's one more story that I want to tell you. Customers across the board are really rushing in to go build amazing scenarios. They want to ensure that they are able to experiment with the new models, build in new features, again, personalized real-time experiences and much more. This kind of speed requires some important adjustments. The intelligence needs to be there in every decision. You want relevance in every response. You want all these experiences to be connected. For that, you need a data foundation that understands the agentic apps much better. So understanding agentic apps essentially means that you really need a data layer that can evolve at the pace at which the agentic app evolves. If you think about some of the vibe coding apps as an example, for example, they iterate a lot. They take a branch, they figure out something, and they're like, nah, that's not a good branch. Let's undo it. Let's go to this other branch. Now, when you apply that kind of a thinking to a database, schema management becomes a hassle. You can't keep altering your schema just like that. So at times, those kinds of applications really prefer a non-relational kind of a world where there's no schema, it's schema agnostic effectively. That's one reason. The other reason is that you want to scale massively. So you don't need a data foundation that understands these agentic apps, some agentic apps, not all. Many agentic apps work well with relational apps as well, but there's a need for a strong non-relational platform. That's exactly what Cosmos DB is designed for. Firstly, it's a schema-agnostic non-relational world, which means, as I said, it can understand the schema changes superbly. And then you can scale the data really well. You can keep adding what we call as partitions, effectively shards. You can keep adding them in a horizontal way. It can grow linearly almost infinitely. If you want to have the data to be regionally resilient, zonally resilient, you want to have RPO zero guarantees or RTO zero guarantees, Cosmos DB has industry-leading, by far. We have a country mile between us and the competition here in terms of how well we do geo-replication and what kind of knobs we have. We have something called active-passive, where you have one region writing, multiple regions reading, or you can write to multiple regions. Even if one region is down, your app doesn't even have to know about it. These are the kinds of features that a lot of our so some of the world-leading applications, the most prolific applications of today's time. I don't know, have you heard about ChatGPT, any of you? OK, you may have. So that's all running on Cosmos DB. And then finally, because of how it is so well designed for AI, again, we are making some serious investments in this space. We can do 100 millisecond searches for 1 billion vectors. This is absolutely the industry-leading benchmark. No database could really come close to this. That's all thanks to our deep commitments and the fundamental architecture that we have for Cosmos DB. One thing that I want to call out is that many of you might have customers who are trying to build multi-tenant applications. The challenge that we hear about multi-tenancy is that they want to ensure that every tenant in that app gets their own security isolation, performance, and all that stuff, but they're worried that it will be costly. They're also worried that it is really hard to monitor everything that's happening to this tens of thousands of accounts or databases and whatever you want to think about it. So we have taken this problem very seriously. We brought it into every database in a, it's slightly named differently, but it is basically a version of fleet management. We call it pools in databases, Elastic clusters in PostgreSQL. It's called fleets in Cosmos DB. They give you that benefit, the best of both worlds, where you really could have all the goodness of managing multi-tenancy, monitor, control things per tenancy without having to pay, which essentially is possible because we shift the capacity where the need is. So you're pooling the capacity instead of thinking about having a dedicated capacity per each tenant, which should be costlier, right? And then we've created a great observability layer, a great monitoring control, and all that stuff. So that's kind of really what is sort of helping build this strong data future-ready foundation. And that's kind of really what I wanted to share today. With that, I'm going to pass it on to Mike Thomsen, who's going to continue the session. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, thank you Thank you, Shireesh, and hello, everyone. My name is Mike Thomsen, and I lead Microsoft's Enterprise Partner Strategy for Data Platform, and definitely glad to be here with you today. Over the last 20 years I've been at Microsoft, I've had an opportunity to see a lot of our database products go from private preview all the way through to end of support, which is it's very interesting perspective to have, and also a very cool one, because every time that happens, I get an opportunity to talk to you as partners to think about how are we going to skill your people up on it? How are we going to make sure that the customers are ready for it? How are we going to implement it, and support it, and then help the customer migrate off of it when it's time to, move on to the next version? And so I love the fact that I'm doing the same thing today with you guys in this room. It's like we're talking about all of these great things that Shireesh just talked about, all of the new advancements and all of the things that you as partners can take advantage of as opportunities. And that's what this portion of the session is about, is to talk about how you as partners can take advantage of all of the things that Jesse and Shireesh just talked about. But before I start, let's hear from your peers. Let's hear from your other partners who have talked about how they leverage and prioritize Azure databases as one of the key components for AI transformation.
Everyone is excited about AI, and you don't have good AI unless you have good, clean data.
Azure database is key part of our data modernization journey. With its performance, resilience, and the native integration makes it the perfect choice for all your critical workloads and also the modern AI applications.
I think the great thing with how Microsoft is approaching its database portfolio is really about openness and accessibility, and the ability to interoperate with other solutions outside of the Microsoft environment.
We really want to go hardcore, get the greatest performance, highly scalable, hyperscale. We're going to go with some form of SQL and scale the heck out of that. It's great to have a lot of choices to help serve our customer with their particular business needs.
The thing that has me fired up is anytime you're at the beginning of a journey with a new technology, it creates massive opportunities, both from a utilization from the people that get to use that technology, and a massive opportunity for the partners.
Right. Massive opportunity for the partners. I love how that video ends, because, like I said, that's what we're going to talk about in this part of the session. So I'm going to talk to you about 3 different ways to think about the partner opportunity when it comes to Azure databases. One is going to be around market opportunity. One's going to be about the opportunity when you look across the solution plays, the cloud and AI platform solution plays that Microsoft goes to market with. And then the third is going to be about use case and how each of the Azure database products can be positioned for different scenarios. So Gartner did a forecast through 2008 for a database management system growth patterns and growth opportunities. And one of the things that popped was the fact that it is accelerating at a very fast rate. And again, this report is a couple of years old, so these numbers are probably even better than what these call out, but 16.2% compounded annual growth rate for database spend, or database projected spend. And then in terms of dollars, that converts to $137 billion. And if you think about the $500-some billion cloud and AI platform opportunity that was talked about earlier today in the keynote, $137 billion is a big component, a big portion of that growth opportunity for cloud and AI platform. So again, that's why we're talking about with you today. Another thing was AI is very important, and AI is top of mind for a lot of companies. But this particular research showed that analytics workloads and scenarios are actually driving a majority of the growth and spend patterns when it comes to databases. And then finally, the database type that is expected to grow the fastest between now and 2008 is document DB. And so again, fits right into what Shireesh was just talking about. So again, 4 very cool reasons to be excited as partners to seize this opportunity. Now let's look at the opportunity for partners across our solution plays. So Cloud and AI platform at Microsoft has 3 different solution plays. One is innovate with Azure AI apps and agents. One is unify your data platform. And the other is migrate and modernize your estate. Now, the main thing I want to start out with here is to tell you not to think about these in terms of silos, not to think of them as mutually exclusive. And let me tell you why, or let me give you an example. So if a customer, if one of your customers, or if you as an ISV are creating a new AI application, that application is only going to be successful if it has the right database structure underneath it. And if it doesn't, then it actually becomes a migrate and modernize opportunity. So you've maybe talking to your customer about what you think is an AI, apps development opportunity, but it soon could become a migrate and modernize opportunity. Now, if you've already worked with the customer and you've stood up a great data platform and unified the data estate already, then our ask is to just make sure that you're building those on top of Azure first-party databases. Similarly, if you have a customer that's looking at analytics solutions or is standing up a new analytics platform, same type of thing. If the underlying data infrastructure or if the InfraDB layer is not yet ready to support that kind of analytics workload, then it's going to be a migrate and modernize opportunity. So again, I want you to be thinking about these solution plays as fluid, as going across. Now, granted, again, if you've already worked with that customer to put together a very robust and modernized data estate, then just make sure that you're building that analytics solution on top of a first-party Azure database. And then finally, if your customer is late to the game and just finally pulling the trigger on going from on-prem to the cloud, leverage our databases to help them migrate and modernize to the right version of the database for them. And so, again, think about these solution plays as interconnected and complementary to each other. Now let's talk about how to position the databases by scenario or by customer use case. So on the build side, you've got Cosmos DB for applications that need to be mission critical, globally scalable, and be able to have the built-in AI capabilities that Shireesh was just talking about. And that's for NoSQL scenarios. Then you've got Azure SQL DB for companies that prefer SQL as their development platform. And similarly, Azure Postgres or Azure DB for PostgreSQL for customers or shops that prefer Postgres as their development platform. And then you've got Document DB for MongoDB capable, highly scalable, secure, multi-cloud type of scenarios for NoSQL use cases. And then finally, again, Horizon DB, where you've got OSS developers who are wanting to a highly secure AI capability or AI capable, solution for relational data. Then on the migrate and modernize side, you've got Azure SQL Managed Instance for SQL applications. You've got database or Azure Database for PostgreSQL and MySQL for customers who have their apps on those solutions or those databases. And then you've got SQL Server on VMs or SQL IaaS for the rehosting type of lift and shift scenarios. So we've talked about those three different ways to think about the opportunity for you as partners. Now let's talk about how to seize that opportunity. What can you do? What are some of the things that you can do starting as soon as you get back from Ignite with your customers? The first, again, you're going to hear it a lot, but it's a common theme and it's very important, is to help that customer build their application on top of an Azure database. If you're an ISV, build your application on top of an Azure database. Sounds pretty straightforward, but again, it's very, very important. The second is land, expand, and grow. So this, again, you may think that your current portfolio of customers are already taken care of, or at least there's not a lot of new opportunities there for databases. But if you go back and look at the consumption patterns of those customers, you may find some interesting patterns or trends. One is if they're consuming a lot of Azure OpenAI or Microsoft Foundry, but very little to no Azure database, that could be an opportunity. Similarly, if they're consuming a lot of Fabric FSQ or Azure Databricks, but again, don't have a lot of Azure database revenue, they're running it on something else, or there may be an opportunity there. That's what we call our go back motion, is to go back to your accounts, data mine your your accounts and look at what their consumption patterns is and look for those opportunities to go back and have new conversations with them about Azure databases and grow your pipeline. The third is all around skilling and credentials. We want to make sure that you are getting specialized or certified, specialized. If you're an ISV or software development company, we want you to be software designated or get the certified software designation. And one of the reasons is because this unlocks investment opportunities for you and other benefits from Microsoft. Fourth is bring databases into every conversation. Now, we know you're not going to lead with databases, or very often databases are not the first thing out of your sellers' mouths when they're talking to their customer. However, it can be something like you saw in the solution play slide that can actually be brought into the conversation at the right time. Now, I was having a conversation earlier with, or recently with an analytics partner, and I asked him, I said, how often do you bring databases into the conversation when you're talking to a customer about an analytics solution that you're helping them build? And they said, every time. We force that conversation. You have to have a conversation with your customer that's developing an analytics solution about what it's going to run on. Because if they've got an outdated or incapable data platform, then their analytics, all the insights and things that they're going to be getting are going to be crap. They're not going to be good because data fuels analytics and AI, and you have to have a great database structure or foundation underneath that. And so I thought that was great. Every conversation. And then finally, leverage our investments. Microsoft has millions and millions of dollars that are available to you to talk to customers, do pre-sales, post-sales, and be able to accelerate those opportunities through the pipeline. And speaking of investments and funding, this is a view of both our SI and ISV incentives that we want to make sure that you're aware of. How many ISVs do we have, or customers who, partners who refer to themselves as an ISV or a software development company in the audience? Okay, good, at least one, thank you. And many of you may be ISVs or SDCs on the call, or excuse me, on the webcast. But Azure Accelerate is the funding mechanism or program for SIs, and this can be up to $75,000 per project for partner nominated. Now there's field nominated as well, which is a different type of funding, which I'm not going to get into today. But from the partner-funded standpoint, you get up to $75,000 per project for both pre-sales and post-sales capability or projects. And then you've got 7 different t-shirt sizes to choose from. For ISVs, or software development companies, you've got either build and publish, which pretty much is what it says. If you're building an application and doing a proof of value and bringing it to marketplace and publishing it, then you can get up to $100,000 for that process. We want to be able to support you as an ISV in bringing those applications to life and getting them onto marketplace. And then there's the end customer migration, which is even more lucrative and even more scalable, because this is a situation where ISVs or SDC partners can nominate each of their end customers that they're migrating to the newer version of their software or migrating to Azure. And this can be either an ISV or SIs who are working with an ISV to help migrate their end customers can leverage this as well. And that's up to $175,000 per project. So very, very lucrative. And if you want to find out more, take a screenshot, or use your phones here and click this QR code. It'll take you to our investments page, and you'll be able to get more information, more deeper information about it. Or you can use the AKA link at the bottom of the screen. And then we've got partner benefits packages, which, again, many of you are probably familiar with, but it's very important to point out here that there are things like launch packages, core packages, expanded packages, et cetera. And there's even a limited offer during Ignite only, where you can buy a package during the conference and get a half hour of private consultation with our technical pre-sales and deployment team sometime during the show. So there's, again, feel free to take a shot of the QR code there and find out more. So now let's bring it all together. I realize that I'm the thing keeping you from whatever else you're doing tonight. So I appreciate you sticking, hanging in there with us. We want you to get ready. We want you to get skilled, certified, designated, specialized. Very, very important. And again, a lot of links here that in the deck that you'll receive after the fact or on Ignite, the Ignite website, you'll have a lot of opportunity to click through these. Create demand, create pipeline. We want to make sure that you're successful in not just skilling your people, but then converting that into expert advice and opportunities to create demand with our campaign in a box, our digital assets, our pitch decks, things like that. And then grow your business with our investments and with publishing to marketplace, all of the different ways that we can support you in that. Now, wouldn't be complete if I didn't also give a plug for the other database sessions that are coming tomorrow and Thursday. So please attend as many of these as you can. It's very important to continue to learn more and go deeper in some of these, depending upon your role or depending upon what you're wanting to get out of Ignite in terms of takeaways. But finally, we want to know if this session just was fantastic and it was exactly what you were looking for, and you're so motivated you can't wait to get back and start doing some of these things, and training your specialists about all the great things that are being announced this week, then tell us. Or if there was something off, if we went too high level, too low level, if we missed something, please let us know that as well. This is our opportunity to improve and to make sure that you as partners are given the best experience, the best information, and the best opportunity to provide feedback to us. So please just take a moment before you go off and do the other things that you have scheduled for tonight to do a survey for us. And on behalf of Jesse, Shireesh, myself, and the respective organizations at Microsoft that we represent, I want to thank you very, very much for being with us today and being here tonight late into the session. So thank you very much.